here's what it comes down to. Okay, so Tennessee's offense is built to overcome a talent disadvantage for other programs. Again, hit that like button so we can open up to more viewers who are with you each and every weekday at 10 o'clock. So Eastern. So Tennessee can overcome a certain talent advantage. But we saw what happened when they played Alabama. Tennessee played an incredible game. I thought won the line of scrimmage on both sides, and that was still a football game at the end. Alabama could have won that game if they hit that field goal at the end, and they didn't have Brett Maher from the Cowboys. So yeah, that game was still a game because Alabama had more talent 1-85 on the roster. The Georgia game was a loss because Georgia could man up against Tennessee's wide receivers. So what you're talking about is Tennessee to get to that next level, they're going to have to start recruiting in that top 5 area. So the transfer portal will certainly help. I think their transfer portal this year, assuming they don't take any more, and I'm sure they will at some point, maybe in the spring, or the people can still transfer in, was somewhere along the lines of a B, maybe B plus. It wasn't as uh, explosive as I thought it would be, but yeah, Caleb, you can beat the Pitts of the world. You can beat the Kentuckys of the world. You can beat a lot of programs just because of this offense is so fantastic, and your talent is good, not great. But to consistently beat the Alabamas and the Georgias of the world, you're going to have to recruit with them.
Absolutely. And Dave, I actually have a question for you on that because you actually know ball a good bit better than I do. Funny enough, you've covered it. You've covered it firsthand on the ground. We talk about Heupel's offense. We just, as you said, it's designed for talent for players to play a. It's designed for less talented teams to be able to be competitive.
Right.
Those offenses, isn't it a double-edged sword? Because yes, it can be designed for those less talented teams to be as competitive, but once you get the talent in there, it can sometimes limit the level of potential they can reach because it's so. I think of like Mike Leach's air raid. I know that's not Josh Heupel's. I know that's not what Josh Heupel runs. Or I think a better example in basketball would be Bruce Pearl with the flex offense and the full court press. Yeah, that helps you overcome a talent disadvantage. But if you've got the most talented team, you're a much more effective team playing a half court defense and running the motion offense. That's how you maximize the talent you have. Whereas I think in football, if you do have the best talent, then you're much more effective running the pro style offense per se.
Um, God rest his soul. I think that's very applicable to Mike Leach. I don't think that offense changed from the late 90s when he was running with Hal Mummy. I don't think it's applicable to Josh Heupel, which is the reason some NFL teams are going to be interested in him at some point. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you because he is a bright, creative mind, and as you know, he runs a different offense from his days at Oklahoma, where it was kind of force fed on him. You mentioned that before, and it is absolutely true. But he also ran it, and he learned tempo, he learned the splits, he learned all those things. So I think let's say Nick Saban snaps his fingers tomorrow and he goes, "I've figured out how to stop that thing." Then I think Josh Heupel is a creative enough offensive mind that he will then adjust. And they also place such an emphasis on running the football. So the wide splits and all that could, I mean, I think Josh Heupel is a smart enough coach, and I'm not just saying this to endear ourselves to the fans. But I think he's a smart enough coach that if he wanted to run Bill Walsh's pro style tomorrow, that he could. I think he's that good. So now maybe that's a direction Tennessee wants to go in when they have better talent than everybody else. Maybe they don't have to run tempo as much. I think you saw a little bit of that at different pieces throughout the second half of the season where they ran a 6-8 minute drive. That's not his comfort zone, but he's very willing to do it. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think he's bright enough where he would be able to come anybody that came up with a way to stop what they're doing now. But I don't think any right now because of the rules of football and the reason you're allowed your offensive linemen are practically allowed to go 20 yards downfield and start blocking for a screen or an RPO. I mean, I don't know that it can change anytime soon, Caleb. Just from the style of it, I think more people are going to copy Josh Heupel before he has to adjust.
Yeah, you're right. They'll have to change the rules for it to change. It reminds me, I dug back on a little bit of history, but the triple option, there was no reason to change it and no way to stop it until college football started banning cut blocks or chop blocks.
Chop block.
And once chop blocks came in, Nebraska still ran it for a good 20 years after that and had some great success. But really, Nebraska was, I think, the last of the teams running it in the 90s. And but it took a rule change. It took a rule change to get rid of the to really send the triple option to be going extinct. And you're right, it may take a rule change with Josh Heupel's offense. And
Yeah, but the thing is, there was a reason for the rule change. And for those that don't know, a chop block is when you're engaged with another lineman. A cut block is perfectly legal, where you go at a lineman's legs. And Nebraska was the absolute master of really short engagement with one guy, and then somebody else would chop/cut him, depending on how you want to look at it. So um, there was a reason for that. It was player safety. But what would be the reason behind making a change now? Because it's exciting. They're up and down the field. It's like adding a 3-point line to college football over the recent years. And I know Gary Danielson told me it bastardizes the sport. Well, maybe it does, but a lot of people like the bastard in it because teams are going up and down the field. So I don't know the motivation to change it.
that's true. I would say, just on a side, the 3-point line in basketball, I think now it was exciting for a while. I think now it's ruining the sport because teams have mastered the art of finding just a bunch of 3-point shooters, knowing that's the best way to win, and nobody needs to run an offense anymore. And we've kind of learned that the mid range was more fun to watch than the 3-point shot.